Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, said he was optimistic that the two parties could work together on health care. Eric Thayer for the New York Times, Washington. Congressional lawmakers said on Friday that the collapse of Republican efforts to demolish the Affordable Care Act had created an opening for bipartisan work to shore up health insurance markets and protect consumers against sharp increases in premiums, but any such effort would have to overcome the firm resistance of President Trump and Republican leaders on Capitol Hill who have refused to participate in any effort to fortify President Barack Obama's health law. The professions of a desire for bipartisan cooperation were as profuse on Friday as the short-term outlook for tangible results was grim. On healthcare, I hope we can work together to make the system better in a bipartisan way, said the Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer of New York, who led efforts to preserve the Affordable Care Act. And I'm optimistic that that can happen, he added, saying that he recognized flaws in the law. The Republicans' 7-year promise to repeal the Affordable Care Act seemed to come to an end in the early hours of Friday when 51 senators, including 3 Republicans, blocked a narrow version of repeal that would have rolled back only a few provisions of the sweeping healthcare law, without a Republican majority to approve either a comprehensive replacement for the health law or a repeal-only bill. Republican leaders had fallen back on what they called the lowest common denominator, and that failed. 2. Senator John McCain, Republican of Arizona, who cast the decisive vote against the Republican bill around 1:30 on Friday morning, appealed for a bipartisan approach. The vote last night presents the Senate with an opportunity to start fresh, he said. The Affordable Care Act was rammed through Congress by Democrats on a strict party line basis without a single Republican vote, Mr. McCain said, and Republicans must not make the same mistake. But there was no hint of an olive branch from the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, who this summer suggested that a failure to repeal the Affordable Care Act would force him to work with Mr. Schumer. Bailing out insurance companies with no thought of any kind of reform is not something I want to be part of, Mr. McConnell said in the early hours of Friday. He suggested that many Democrats secretly wanted a single-payer healthcare system, with a much larger role for the government. President Trump reiterated his threat to force the health law to collapse. 3 Republicans and 48 Democrats let the American people down. As I said from the beginning, let Obamacare implode, then deal. Watch, he wrote on Twitter, and some Republicans did not sound ready to close the door on repeal, despite the exceedingly slim